Welcome back into NFL Daily. I am Tom Downey. Stone Shields behind the scenes on today's show as we run through all the latest around the NFL and football in general. We'll do a Stanford update with Troy Taylor out. We'll do some head coach candidates there. But we'll focus on the NFL side first and foremost. Russell Wilson is one of the top NFL free agents still unsigned. Who do you think will end up signing the potentially soon-to-be former Steelers quarterback? Steelers are still an option. S for them. G for the Giants, B for the Browns, or O for other. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. It is also the pinned poll, so you can get your votes in on that front. S, G, B, or other. It is fairly even split right now. And if you're typing in other, let me know what team you have in mind. 26% say Steelers, 32% say Giants, 25% say Browns, 17 are voting on the other side. Gino and Joseph spamming his G. Charles, I guess their G because it's Gino and Joseph. Charles says G. Chua says O for other. Fig Beller says Minnesota, which would be interesting. Chua's got Tennessee. I think that's like the top other destination if they surprise people and don't take Cam Ward, which we'll also discuss, by the way, in today's show. So get your votes in, S, G, B, or O, for where you think Russell Wilson ends up signing. Whether it's before the draft, after the draft, within a month or so, we should have kind of actual details on where Russ ends up going next. Now, as of right now, for the first time in a long time, none of the first-round picks have been traded. That will almost assuredly change. Very rarely do you have no trades in round one. It's even basically doesn't happen. It's also rare to have no first-round trades yet in round one, even dating back to last year of future firsts getting traded. So how many round one trades do you think happen in the 2025 NFL Draft? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. How many trades do you think happen in the first round? Michael thinks the Bears will trade down. I think the Niners could be a good trade down candidate. I just think that they are in enough need of extra pieces, extra depth, picks in general, that if a team wants to jump in front of, who's ever picking 12 to 15, 17, whatever, if Genty's there maybe or a receiver's there, I could see someone moving up there with the 49ers. I see 4, 2, 2, 8. Be a lot of movement. Be really intriguing, frankly. 4, 8, 2. Keep the comments coming on today's show. How many trades do you think happen in round one? Fig says Vikings trade out of the first round. I think that's another really good trade destination. They don't have draft picks. They're very light. I think Minnesota's an obvious trade down candidate. I think they would love to move down and acquire extra picks. I think that's a very good prediction there, Fig. 0 from Shane. No trades in round one. Mr. J says 3. DC times Viper says 3 or 4 at most. Paxson says Texans. I could see them trading up if they want to go get maybe a piece on offense. They've added enough bodies at linemen. Maybe they don't go down that path, but I think a trade up could make some sense. Williams says 4 after the top 10. It's a good one there. Matt says Dolphins trade down. Charles says Niners and Lions trade down. Browns trade back up for Jackson Dart. We'll talk Dart. I think it's quarterback desperation kind of feeding that one. Now, we'll also talk individual trades, player trades today. Name a player who you think ends up getting traded. Let me know in the comments section of today's show a player you think ends up getting dealt. I'm going to sip some more of my water. As you can tell, I'm a little bit stuffy. Weather changes, child's birthday party. Who's to say what got it going again this time? Brandon Ayuk is in there from DC times Viper. I wouldn't rule it out. I think it'd be kind of weird, but the Niners are kind of doing some weird stuff with their reset, I'll call it. George Pickens. It's a decent dark horse, especially if they can get somebody in round one. I was going to say, or round two, not a round pick. On round one or day two. Alec Pierce, not a bad option either. If they trust A.D. Mitchell to kind of have a step forward season. Maz says Tyreek Hill. We'll see. I don't know if that's going to... I think they're going to be okay. I think that those two sides have kind of fixed any issues there on that front. So keep the names coming. A player you think ends up getting traded. DC says, I think he means Parsons. I'd be very surprised. One thing I always want to point out to people is the Cowboys aren't actually paying anybody right now. It's Dak, Lamb, and that's kind of it. It's not that different than the Bengals. The Bengals, they pay 2 receivers in Burrow. They have no one else to pay outside of Hendrickson. Right, Stone? They just got, it's just what they have available in the end. All right, we will also have a mailbag for you. 2 ways to get on. Hashtag NFL or skip the line altogether and super chat. I already saw some hashtags NFL, some NFL hashtags come in. Appreciate that. If you have questions, thoughts, comments, whatever, NFL related, get them in. We'll get them in on the show if you use the hashtag NFL feature or super chat. Skip the line and definitely get on that way. Now, if you want us to start today's show, drop us a like. The goal is always a 50% like ratio. We're at about 25%. So I want to bump those numbers up. So like the video if you haven't already. It is an NFL Live plus bonus on today's live stream. We'll run through some NFL news and rumors, free agency, draft, and trades all together in one there. A mailbag. Not in this order, by the way. I changed things because we added the Stanford stuff. Hashtag NFL or super chat. Mike Tannenbaum's NFL mock draft has been released. I have thoughts because it's a Tannenbaum mock draft. How can you not? And with Stanford firing their head coach today as a kind of a bonus section, we will break down some top head coach candidates for Stanford. All come live here on NFL Daily Plus One CFB Now. Now, we will discuss all 3 topics on today's NFL Daily, but what do you want more videos on? D for the draft, T for trades, F for free agency. Of course, this is NFL specific. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. And we'll begin with free agency. Russell Wilson remains unsigned as one of the top NFL free agents left as teams seemingly continue to wait for an Aaron Rodgers decision, which who knows when that ends up coming. Could be today, could be tomorrow, could be 3 weeks from now. It's Rodgers, you know? There are a couple of main contenders here for Russell Wilson. First up is the Steelers. Obviously, that's the main team. They had him last year, but they're pushing pretty hard for Aaron Rodgers. And on some level, it's kind of funny to see all these teams in the quarterback market like kind of trade. We don't want to do that experiment anymore. Like, the Browns did the Winston thing. They didn't want to do that. The Steelers did the Russell Wilson thing. They don't want to do that now, maybe. It's kind of funny to see that play out there. There have been some reports, I know Jordan Schultz mentioned it, one of the Steelers reporters mentioned it too, that the Wilson-Tomlin relationship isn't as good currently as it was in the past, which would explain their heavy pursuit of Aaron Rodgers. Now, if Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh, okay, that takes them out of the running for Russ. The Giants stand out as a prime contender. Now, they've already signed Jameis Winston, and there are still reports that they are looking for help. I know The Athletic has mentioned this. ESPN has mentioned it too, Adam Schefter, that they could sign a Russell Wilson, sign a Rodgers, and even draft somebody. And they've got only DeVito and Winston on their roster right now. Winston got backup quarterback money. They could still pursue a Russell Wilson or maybe more likely a draft pick, which then also allows the Browns to be a strong contender here. And to an extent, the Browns have some control over the quarterback movement and market since they draft before the Giants do. If the Browns go, we want Shedeur Sanders, he's theirs. Because in theory, Tennessee takes Cam Ward. More on that in a little bit. And then the Giants go, okay, we can't get Shedeur. Now what do we do? Or they can convince Russ to come to Cleveland. I kind of feel like, Rodgers, the reports have been, Rodgers wants Minnesota real bad. Russ maybe wants New York a little bit badly, or preferred destination there. But there's still some dominoes to fall. And maybe this comes after the Aaron Rodgers one, but where do you think Russell Wilson ends up signing in NFL free agency? S for the Steelers, G for the Giants, or B for the Browns, O for other, maybe Tennessee surprises everybody. Let me know at the pin comment, actually, of today's show. The ad comes here on YouTube. Take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Now, Sports Illustrated, the Jags Sports Illustrated site, says they were told by one NFL exec that other teams have interest in trading for Travon Walker, the edge rusher, the former number 1 overall pick. This is what one NFL exec, allegedly, I suppose put that on there, I guess, said to Sports Illustrated. There is a lot of interest around the league in Jags' Travon Walker, should they choose to move on. For a rebuilding team, the offers may be so high that they couldn't refuse it. I don't think that they want to move him, but when you are rebuilding, you have to look at every option. There's also this part, too. When a new regime comes in, teams call about their players because how the previous regime viewed somebody might not be how the new regime views them. So if you think you can take advantage of something, you're going to call. I don't know if it is very likely, however. They have Josh Allen. I feel like Allen and Walker are kind of like linchpins of that defense, and he's played well the past 2 years. 10 TFLs and 10 sacks, 13 TFLs, 10.5 sacks. That's pretty good career production the past 2 seasons for the former number 1 overall pick. So in the end, I would be surprised, I know a lot of people have mentioned this, if a Travon Walker trade ends up happening. It would, as the exec said, have to be an offer so high they couldn't refuse. I feel like that's at least a high first-round pick. I know it's a different regime. He was the number 1 overall guy. So I would be kind of surprised if a trade ended up going down in the end. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. March is here, and Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action on the basketball going on. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Take advantage of some of their free squares. Cooper Flag, more than a half point. I mean, come on. That's obviously going to happen. And then you can do 1 or 2 or 3 more, 4 more additional Prize Picks slates. Got Mark Sears less than points. That's my boy Tyler Jones' selection there. Sears kind of slightly cold from deep, at least on the shooting side. So go download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That $50 is guaranteed. Win or lose, you get it once you play your first $5 lineup. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. One more time for you. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get that $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Let's go to A.J. Brown. This one is even less likely than Travon Walker as far as I'm concerned. Greg Bedard and other Patriots accounts, mostly on social media, have really pushed this idea of A.J. Brown to the Patriots. Like, obviously, the Patriots could really use A.J. Brown. They don't have a number 1 receiver. They've got a bunch of 2s and 3s. They don't have a legitimate top-tier playmaker at wide receiver. That's proven. That's reliable. And that's what A.J. Brown is. Went for 1,000 yards last year in 13 games. He's been a 1,400-yard receiver the last 2 years. I get that he was once a surprise trade by Tennessee, which Tennessee really, really regretted. Why do we think that would happen again? It makes sense for the Patriots. As we'll get into, how does it make sense for Philadelphia? So name a player who you think ends up getting traded. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Any player, any team, drop it for me in the comments of today's show. Look, there are issues here from the Philadelphia make it make sense side. For starters, the Eagles have shown time and time again they love having players. Good players. They love it. They are the team that trades for A.J. Brown, not the one that trades away A.J. Brown. That's not how they operate. And to their credit, by the way. Also, the money is a thing here. The way A.J. Brown's contract is structured, the Eagles have a just under $18 million cap hit for him this year. If they were to trade him, that balloons to 13.9 in cap savings losses. So they're paying almost $14 million on the cap this year to not have A.J. Brown when they are clearly a contender to win the damn Super Bowl. The new team owes nothing. Cash is pretty high because it's got option bonus stuff. It doesn't make any sense for Philadelphia. Like, sometimes I think these fan bases get so desperate. I'm not taking shots at any of the Patriots fans watching. Like, I think, Brandon Ayuk could be somewhat reasonable. But you get so desperate for talent, you'll kind of talk yourself into any idea when it doesn't make sense for the other party involved. Now, we will have more NFL news and rumors for you right here on the channel. Do not miss out. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv. And as promised, some brief draft conversation here. Cam Ward at his pro day. I'll make note off the top here. I don't really care about pro days. I don't find them valuable. Testing, sure. Like, every quarterback should look good in the pro day combine setting, but when you're throwing in shorts on a scripted package, on air, no defenders, no pressure, it would be a concern if you didn't look great. Cam Ward looked great. That's expected. I don't give him bonus points for that. But the Titans continue to indicate that they have a lot of interest here. They sent a massive contingent to his pro day, including their in-house media and video team, and everyone for the organization. They're going to have a private workout with Cam Ward now as well. Cam Ward acknowledging that he wants to be the number 1 overall pick. One of two things is happening here. Titans are simply going to take Cam Ward at number 1 overall and hope they have their new franchise quarterback that they haven't really had in a long time. I actually don't hate some of these Aaron McNair comps, by the way. That's kind of like a low-key good one. Or the Tennessee Titans are doing the world's best sales job of they want Cam Ward, but they're going to trade the pick to somebody else, which I would be kind of surprised by since they don't have any other quarterbacks in play. It would be the biggest surprise of like, wow, they tricked us, since it wasn't even really a trick. The year that Mario Williams went number 1 overall shocked everybody. It was like, it's going to be Reggie Bush or something, and it wasn't. It was Mario Williams. I remember being shocked by that when I learned about it, even as just a younger kid. I think Cam Ward's going to be the number 1 overall pick. I have concerns with some of his play. The gunslinger nature is both a positive and a negative. But if you think he's your guy, and he'll be a top 30 whatever player on my board in the end, I think there is still a lot of traits to like and love about Cam Ward, and I've heard only good things about his interview process. Sounds like he'll be that top pick in round 1. So how many trades do you think happen in round 1 of this year's NFL draft? Let me know in the comments of today's video. If you'd asked me like, I don't know, a week, 2 days with the combine, I would have went, yeah, the Giants are going to go trade up for Cam Ward. Like I think the Giants thought they're going to be able to pull that one off. And since then, it's just kind of been all Tennessee is going to elect to keep Cam Ward. That's the general vibe out there. So how many trades do you think happen in round 1 of the NFL draft? Next, we will break down the Mike Tannenbaum NFL mock draft here, the most recent one he's put together in just a second. But let me know how many trades do you think happen in round 1 of the NFL draft. On today's show, we're taking a look at ESPN's Mike Tannenbaum's NFL mock draft. Now, most mock drafts, including the ones that I do, are based on what we think NFL teams will do. Tannenbaum is doing it based on what he would do if he were that team's NFL GM. In years past, these mocks have been insane, and they've just been wild picks like Hendon Hooker going 5th overall or something. This year, not as crazy, but also still some really weird picks that don't make any sense to me. We'll break them down to the good and the bad on today's show. And this video is going up first on demand on the Chat Sports NFL Draft channel. A lot of videos going up over there now, too, as we keep growing and expanding. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatNFL, to get more NFL draft-focused videos. Tannenbaum has Cam Ward going number 1 overall, acknowledging he's not ready to write off Will Levis as NFL starter yet, which actually I am. Sorry, Will. But this is also both like pretty realistic, where it certainly sounds like Ward is the likely pick at number 1 overall. Number 2, Shedeur Sanders, the cornerback wide receiver. Now, Tannenbaum says the Browns need corner and receiver help. I don't know if they actually need corner help, frankly. And the Browns have kind of intimated they think that Hunter is a receiver more than anything else, but I think he can do both. I'd probably play him at corner and then give him 24 plays on offense per game and profit from that standpoint. But nothing overly shocking yet. Giants taking Shedeur Sanders at number 3 overall. Again, this one doesn't surprise very many people right now. I will say that Tannenbaum's a big fan of Shedeur Sanders. Got him as a top 15 quarterback, he thinks, in the NFL. I don't think that's actually that crazy of a take. I think that's like why you would take somebody at number 3 overall at minimum. But I just acknowledge what Tannenbaum has to say here. The Shedeur Sanders range is going to be very interesting to me. He could go 2. He could go 3. I know ESPN's Jordan Reed mentions he's not going to get past 7. Or there's, the slide. It happens. Aaron Rodgers slid. Brady Quinn slid. Jimmy Clausen fell a lot. Who do you think in the end ends up drafting Shedeur Sanders? It is the pinned comment on today's video. So if that ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Here's the first surprise pick. Armand Membu to the Patriots at number 4. Now, this is a surprise because Abdul Carter is on the board here. This feels like taking the bigger need over the better player. Even though I like Membu a lot, I think he could make some sense if, only one QB goes in those first 3 picks and Hunter and Carter are gone. But I can't get on board with passing on Abdul Carter, who does go number 5 to Jacksonville. Now you got a lot of fun stuff with Josh Hines-Allen and Travon Walker all grouped together. That would be, I think, the ideal dream scenario for Jacksonville is somehow one of Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter slide down to number 5. Number 6, Ashton Genty. Again, this has been a very popular mock draft pick, so nothing too crazy from Tannenbaum on this one. Kind of acknowledging some of the Marshawn Lynch, Pete Carroll stuff in Seattle, but the Raiders need a running back or receiver, so this does make sense to me. Will Campbell, number 7. Again, I don't know if he is a tackle. The arm length and the wingspan even more so are profoundly short. That's going to be a concern. Do you put him on the right side? What do you do with Olu Fashanu? That's what kind of why I like Membu so much at 7. Like Membu just plays right tackle and you're locked in there with your bookend tackles. But I think like pure offensive talent, whether he's a guard or a center maybe, I think Campbell's one of the best players in this year's class. Jalen Walker, which I actually like this fit a lot too. I like the edge linebacker flexibility where you can kind of build your defense around Jalen Walker because outside of Derek Brown, like the Panthers don't have a lot of like hardcore, like locked in pieces of like where you build your defense around. So you can kind of drop him in and focus your defense around Jalen Walker. Mykel Williams. So look, I am not as high on him. I know the ankle injury was an issue, but if I'm taking someone in the top 10, I do get a bit hesitant having to go, yeah, the production's bad, but. Like, I don't want to have to make that my pitch. So I am not as I'm not as high on Mykel Williams. Saints could use an edge, so I get that. But this is personal preference, flavors of ice cream type of stuff. This is great value for Chicago. Mason Graham goes number 10 here. He also mentioned, by the way, Tyler Warren and Josh Simmons as options for Chicago. Graham at 10, I think, is incredible value. A lot of Bears fans would be very happy with that pick. Now, Tannenbaum acknowledges that I have lots of holes. It's fair. I like Will Johnson a lot. I am not going to let a half season of inconsistent play ruin a guy that I saw be great as a true freshman at Michigan. Like, I'm not going to people made that mistake with Derek Stingley. I'm not saying Will Johnson is as good as Derek Stingley. I don't think he is. But I'm not going to make that same mistake of letting a small recent sample size override the entire big picture. T-Mac, Tedderone McMillan going 12 to the Dallas Cowboys. This makes all the sense in the world to me. My stamp of approval is kind of all I have to add on that one. Josh Simmons at 13 is weird. Tannenbaum, I guess, loves him because he says that the value is great. I don't know that it is. The Dolphins just drafted Patrick Paul last year with the intent of making him the left tackle once Terron Armstead officially retires and calls it a career. So adding another tackle in round 1, I don't understand it. I love this pick too. Tyler Warren at Penn State, Indiana, both a popular regular mock draft pick and one I think it makes so much sense of getting a position of need and a high-end impact player. Now you can get NFL jerseys available now over at chatsports.com/NFL jersey. Every NFL team, if you want to wait and get the rookie jersey for your new favorite, for your team drafts, your new favorite player potentially, they'll be available at chatsports.com/NFL jersey. Officially licensed NFL jerseys for all the teams. Plus, Marvin Harrison is now available. Link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. Number 14, Kenneth Grant, who I like, and I get that the Falcons lost Grady Jarrett. I understand that. I acknowledge it. I think not taking an edge when there are, I think, very good edges on the board here. I can't get on board with that for a team that did just, draft Zach Harrison in the 3rd and Ruka Rororo in the 2nd and has David Onomata and didn't get any good pass rush. Like, I think I would look at pass rush first, but I do love the athletic ability that Kenneth Grant offers. Matthew Golden to the Cardinals. Probably not a very common mock draft pick, but I actually get it. Golden and McBride and Harrison, you can kind of reduce the pressure on Michael Wilson to be a receiver too. Maybe a bit of luxury pick, but I understand what they're going for there. Edge rusher for Cincinnati. Makes sense. The James Pierce kind of like focus character stuff could be a red flag. I think the talent's really intriguing. He's bad against the run, though. Tennessee didn't really play him out there. And that would also, I think, be a pretty big concern for Cincinnati. Now, Seattle doesn't like investing in guards early. I think they have to change that, so I love this pick by Mike Tannenbaum here at 18 to Seattle with Tyler Booker at Alabama. I think best pure guard in the class, just plug-and-play starter and help prevent Sam Darnold from seeing ghosts out there. Tampa at number 19. I like this fit too. Levante David cannot play forever. I question if there is another true long-term starter in this linebacking room that I trust. I think Campbell in a Todd Bowles defense is a really strong fit. LeMarion Hampton out of North Carolina to Denver again. I don't have any complaints here. Need is obvious. Fits, I think, is pretty good. Adding talent, good player. I'm on board with that one. Not on board with this next pick, though. Shamar Stewart at 21. Why? That doesn't make any sense to me. I get that the physical upside is there. This has nothing to do with the potential breakout candidacy of Shamar Stewart of the town or anything. This is a team that has Alex Highsmith, who's pretty darn good. They got really good play from Nick Herbig, and they have T.J. Watt. Why do they need another edge rusher? Because that's what Shamar Stewart's going to be. He's not going to do 5 technique stuff at his weight. I think this pick makes 0 sense. Tannenbaum might not know who Nick Herbig is based on his comments. This one makes sense, though, doesn't it? Colston Loveland out of Michigan, the tight end to the Chargers. It's a perfect Jim Harbaugh pick. No complaints there. Siobhan Revell, the ACL tear in his left knee is a red flag, but I think corner is an area of concern. We'll see what ends up happening long-term with Jay Alexander. Kind of surprised he's not been cut yet, frankly. If you trust the medical, I have very few concerns about this pick here at 22 with the Green Bay Packers. Number 24, the Minnesota Vikings, Jahdae Barron. I actually don't know how perfect of a fit he is in the Vikings defense. I have some minor man coverage concern stuff, but he can do inside, outside, safety stuff if you need. I think the talent is really damn good. He's a top 10 player for me in this class. So if Brian Flores thinks he can make him work, hell yeah, let's ride. Kelvin Banks out of Texas. Cam Robinson is not a long-term starter. He's only on a 1-year deal. I need to find a way to protect C.J. Stroud better. No issues there. Jackson Dart. I am not a fan of him at this range. Day 2, late day 2, day 3, sure. Not a complaint at all. That's the right value. But I think that the lack of quarterback talent is going to push somebody up early. And if that's Dart, okay, but he doesn't have elite physical traits. He doesn't. He needs time to grow and develop. I don't want to have a developmental quarterback prospect who, I don't really think has a top 10 ceiling in the NFL. His arm is solid, but when he has to do real quarterback stuff at Ole Miss, it actually wasn't very good. When it wasn't schemed up stuff and vertical shots and play action stuff, the normal QB stuff, I was not impressed by. Now with that said, Sean McVay would probably make Jackson Dart pretty darn good, but I don't need to spend a first-round pick on that as far as I'm concerned. So is Jackson Dart worthy of a first-round pick? Why for yes and for no, let me know in the comments section of today's show. 27, Mike Green out of Marshall. You got to trust the character stuff here. But I think talent-wise, this is one of the best edges in the class. So getting him at 27 would be a steal for the Ravens. He should go earlier. Malachi Starks, a safety from Georgia out of Detroit. Part of this I get. Classic Lions pick, Tannenbaum says. Versatility, big school. Okay, but he wants to play Malachi Starks at nickel, and I don't think he was nearly as good at nickel as he was at deep safety. So part of it I get, other half, not a huge fan of. Maxwell Harrison here, out of Kentucky, the corner to the Commanders, which I am. The player value range is probably about right, but you have Mikey Sainristil, you have Marshawn Lattimore. They started and got good play out of Noah Igbinoghene last year, brought him back. They signed Jonathan Jones. I kind of don't think corner is the route the Commanders should be pursuing here. Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State. You have Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Joshua Palmer. Another receiver who, I don't think is an elite level 1, but a good secondary option. Kind of feel like you already have that there. The Chiefs, again, the value here is pretty good. And it's kind of like all these guys. I like the value more or less. Nick Emanwari, the safety out of South Carolina, freaky athlete. Depends on how you feel about Jaden Hicks, I think, here. If you are worried about Jaden Hicks, then yeah, you could use a safety. I don't know if the Chiefs are going to invest in this position in round 1. Gray Zabel, the offensive lineman of North Dakota State, to the Philadelphia Eagles at number 32. This could be a replacement for Mekhi Becton, compete with Tyler Steen, too. I think he's an interior offensive lineman in the NFL. Eagles, though, normally go money 5, not always guard in round 1. So grade his mock draft for me. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Then we'll break down some other players not in Tannenbaum's round 1 mock draft. Now, Luther Burden, I'm a fan of him. I don't get why he's fallen. I think he's awesome. Doesn't make sense to me. Maybe there's something that we don't know going on behind the scenes, but I think he's awesome. I put Ariante Ursery on here because specifically Tannenbaum said that Ursery was his next best offensive tackle. Not sure I buy it, but it's fine. Walter Nolan is inconsistent, so I actually don't mind leaving him off here. Derek Harmon, I am a big fan of. I think Donovan Ezeraku could very well end up going in round 1. So I want you guys to use hashtag NFL or Super Chat to get on the show. I've seen some hashtag NFL come in. Appreciate that. Gets you in the queue, allows producer Stone to find your question, bring it up on screen. And Super Chat allows you to skip the line altogether and get on no matter what. So, Lacora, I saw Skylar in there. I saw others in there. Keep the hashtag NFL questions coming. Sip some water here. Hashtag NFL to get on the show. Whether it's a question, comment, idea, theory, whatever it is, we got you covered. Get those questions in via hashtag NFL. Or again, you're guaranteed to get on with the Super Chat feature here on the show. You all good there, Stone? Okay, you're good. Yeah, that's fine. See, I've got questions from the Cora. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. LV, if not, I'm sorry. Skylar, I saw come in. I think there were others at one point. Ryan L had that in there earlier. I saw DC Viper. Pretty sure I saw True Allure in there. Tony is in there too. So we got room for more questions. Appreciate that, Charles and Cali Lama as well. Get them in via hashtag NFL, or again, guaranteed to get on the show with a Super Chat, as we'll run through today's mailbag as soon as producer Stone gives me the thumbs up, and we are all good to go. Before we get into today's mailbag, if you do a super thanks, we will give you a shout out on future mailbags. It's like a Super Chat, but it's on demand. You don't have to be watching live to do it. You can click that heart with the $, edit your message, send them whatever, because we appreciate your support. So even if it's FU Tom, don't commit isms. We will give you a shout out on the show. LaCour Victor, will the Bears trade down after not getting Ashton Jeanty and see to draft off someone like Josh Simmons, defensive player like Kenneth Grant, or a pass rusher? I think it's possible. Let's say Jeanty goes 6. Do the Bears go offensive line? Is there a Will Campbell who they think can play tackle? Is Armand Membu an option for them? Dark horse Tyler Warren. If Jeanty is gone, do they just take the best defensive player on their board? Bears are kind of in a unique spot where we'll see what happens with Jeanty. I think he makes sense for them at 10, but trading down to kind of recoup some of the lost draft capital from trades, I think actually does make a lot of sense for the Chicago Bears. Ryan L., do the Packers make any trades or signings, do you think? I wouldn't rule out like the old draft day trade of they send a day 3 pick for a veteran. That wouldn't be terribly shocking. I think if like the Packers do something, getting rid in some capacity of Jair Alexander makes sense. I'm a little bit surprised he hasn't been cut. I kind of thought he would have been by now. I think what the Packers need is, assuming they move on from Alexander, a dog at corner. They need a special player there, and I think a dog at receiver, like a really damn good football player. I don't think they have that right now. I think they're kind of lacking at both of those spots. So if they can get a receiver, yes, I don't know who's available. And then knowing them, they'll probably draft an edge pretty early too. From Steven, could Dallas trade Micah Parsons to pay others and get a Herschel Walker type package? So kind of different questions here. First up, the Cowboys can afford Micah and others. They're not paying anybody really. Obviously, Dak's a huge deal. Lamb is a huge deal. That's it. I've watched other teams spend big money. It's like they have like top 10 cap space right now. They've got more than enough money to spend. So they don't have to choose like a Micah Parsons, like a Tyler Smith. They can afford both guys with ease. As for the Herschel Walker type package, don't get your hopes up. I don't think that trade package ever happens again outside of an elite level quarterback. I don't think it's realistic. I think teams value draft picks too much. That was a rare, unique situation. In the end, I think Dallas drags this out, but eventually does pay Micah Parsons, just like they did with all of their other top-of-the-market players. What do you think, though, ends up happening with Micah Parsons? T for trade, P for pay. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. It is the pinned comment. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. William Cook, what does the undrafted free agent class look like this year? I'm not that far into my evaluation, and teams will always be able to find good players. But I think in general, as it's been the last year or maybe two, the day 3 undrafted class isn't that great. Between NIL and the COVID year impact, you've got guys staying in school longer. You have fewer underclassmen than in a really, really long time turning pro, which means overall you're missing out on talent. Guys that, were going to be 4th to 5th round picks had they turned pro, even 3rd round picks, they know, well, I can go to school and get more money in NIL. So now it becomes financially smart to stay in college. I think as a result, you are still feeling some of the trickle-down effect of this class just isn't as deep. At some spots, running back is loaded this year, for example. I think there's going to be I might have 40 draftable grades on backs. It's insane. Every team should draft one. But overall, I think the undrafted class is just not as deep as it's been in 5 years ago. It's just not the same anymore. From Skyler, Panthers should trade for John Mechie. I don't know what the value for John Mechie is. He hasn't been what was hoped. Obviously, he had the cancer stuff, which was kind of a big factor for him. But I think that for Carolina, you want to gamble on it. Sure, there's no real downside there. Maybe that gives you Adam Thielen insurance if he ends up moving on in the not too distant future. / signs, trades, retires, whatever. But I think they need to get Leggett going. They need to have a real number 1 at wide receiver. From James, Kirk Cousins trade to maybe the Browns. The Kirk situation is really interesting to me. There was the report from Albert Breer that that Cousins would not waive his no trade clause until after draft, because it doesn't want to get to like happened this past year where he signs and then the team drafts somebody. I get that a lot. Look, his base salary is $27.5 million right now. That's a lot of money. And I would question if anybody would pay that right now. And would a team eat half of it? How much would the Falcons be willing to eat on that contract? I'm honestly just not sure. Because there's also the $10 million roster bonus that is now already guaranteed. So you're eating a lot of money. It's 27.5 this year, 45 next year. The Falcons have to eat a significant portion of that. Otherwise, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of interest there. So I think he fits schematically with what the Browns want to do because it's the same coach, Kevin Stefanski. What do you think the Browns end up trading for Kirk Cousins in the end? Y for yes, N for no. Go vote for me in the comments of today's show. Charles McClain. I'm a Lions fan. I could see the Lions going O-line in the first round. Agree or disagree? They have not yet replaced Zeitler. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. I will say I do think they are intrigued by, in particular, Christian Mahogany, their 6th-round pick last year. They drafted, I think it was Colby Sorzal in the 5th round 2 years ago. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions try to go cheap at right guard and see if those young guys can contribute. But if there's someone that they like in round 1 or round 2 or day 3 even early, I wouldn't be surprised either. But I do think Mahogany was a good pick by them. I liked him coming out of Boston College. I could see them giving him a shot. But, if they love Gray Zabel and he's there in round 1 or Booker's there in round 1, yeah, that wouldn't be a surprise at all either. NFL jerseys are available from our friends over at Fanatics. Get yours today at chatsports.com/NFL jersey. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. All 32 teams, and now that Marvin Harrison is back, all the players as well. You can customize jerseys too. Link will be in the comments and the description of today's show. Chatsports.com/NFL jersey. Kali Lama. Presume the possibility, of the Patriots getting Carter or Hunter at 4. What offensive tackle would be available in the later rounds for them? It's a good question. Now, I'm going to answer later rounds as like round 2, round 3. Does like a Josh Connerly get to them at the top of that second round? I don't think Kelvin Banks gets there. Does Ariante Ursary interest them in some capacity? If you want to go further down, he's a right tackle, but like Ozzie Trapillo could be a halfway decent fit. Even later rounds, Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon, I think, could be a possible fit for them. Other left tackles I like. I don't think Josh Simmons slides to them, but they could always be a trade-up team back in around 1. Go up and get a Kelvin Banks. Go up and get a Josh Simmons if they're sliding. That, I think, would make a lot of Patriots fans happy. From Tony, despite the bad Super Bowl last time, I think Casey will be back next year. AFC's tough, man. Bengals might have a defense, maybe. Who's to say? Sorry, Stone. The Ravens are always going to be a threat. The Bills are always going to be a threat right now. There's a lot of great quarterbacks. Can Houston kind of bounce back? It's not going to be easy, but it's Mahomes and Reed and the Chiefs. They'll be among the betting favorites in the end. Now, if you are enjoying our NFL mailbags, hit that sub button. YouTube.com/ChatSportsTV for more free NFL YouTube videos. Ecuador man, do you believe this Cowboys Tyreek Hill bull crap? No, I don't. Look, it's just like ideas online and headlines that should not be printed as such, but people want the clickbait stuff. And I get that Tyreek and Micah were at a charity event together. This is what happens in sports fandom. Like, it's Cowboys fans think they're going to get to Tyreek Hill, and Dolphins fans think they're going to get Micah Parsons. The way the Hill deal was structured, I don't buy it. Now, at least not this year. We can always revisit again next year. DC times Viper. Could a team like the Rams or Packers make a trade offer for Travon Walker? Could, absolutely. Would the Jags accept it? I doubt it. Because like a minimum, I think it's a first-round pick. So the way to think about it is, if you are the Jags, are you trading Travon Walker for Donovan Ezeraku? No, of course you're not going to do that. So that's why I don't buy the Travon Walker trade talk. Ryan, will the Eagles trade Dallas Goedert? Maybe. There had been some, I think, more credible rumors on that one. Same with like the Mark Andrews conversation. I think in the end, the Eagles probably aren't going to get the type of offer that they wanted. Like, they'd have interest in him, if they could get a good offer back, because they have Grant Calcaterra. They signed 3 guys really. They got a lot of tight ends over there, a lot of investment in signings. Harrison Bryant, Colin Granson, Cameron Lottie. I haven't looked at the contracts. Probably a couple of those are very cheap guys, but I'd be a little bit surprised still. So name a player who you think ends up getting traded. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Adam Dent, do you think the Panthers trade back from 8? In general, I think there's a lot of teams that would like to trade down. And that's how it normally goes in the draft. Everyone wants more picks, right? So you need someone to come up. And I don't know in this class if there's going to be someone who desperately wants to move up. If there's going to be a team that really gets anxious and, goes up and gets somebody. There'll probably be 1 or 2, but who's coming up and for what? Because it's not a great tackle class at the top. There are concerns on those guys. Like the investment money is a receiver, tackle, corner, edge, and quarterback. There's kind of some questions around all those guys at the top of the draft. There's some great depth later at various spots. But if there's not like obvious linchpin players at key spots, you don't always see that action early in round 1. Mid to late round 1, could be a lot of buzz. Steve H. Was the Texans trading Tunsil simple planning ahead to have the cap for new Stroud and Anderson contracts? I honestly don't think so, and here's why. The cap is skyrocketing. The salary cap is only going up. Like, it is going to be well above $300 million. By the time they have to give Stroud what will probably be $70 million per year, and Will Anderson probably $50+ million per year, the cap's going to be like $370 million. So, like, that's a lot of money, but the cap is so high, it's like, okay, we're fine. Like, it's not really going to be a huge issue in the long run. And it's not like, obviously they paid Derek Stingley, but, by then, Titus Howard's contract will probably be off the books. Dalton Schultz will be off the books. Then Daniil Hunter, maybe. They also kind of extended him. Like, I think they had the money to keep Tunsil if they wanted to. I think that they thought the picks were more valuable, and, I don't know, I have a tough time explaining it. I know there were complaints about, the locker room and attitude and stuff, but then you go out and trade for Ed Ingram. So, that one, it just doesn't make sense to me, frankly. It just doesn't. I didn't really get it, but they'll have no issues paying those guys. Either way, they will be fine. I promise you that. Do you guys like college football? Y for yes, N for no. I asked this because we will get into the Stanford hot board here in just a little bit. That needs to be singular. It's not plural. Cardinal, not S. We will get to that here in a little bit. Do you guys enjoy college football? Y for yes, N for no. The Stanford Cardinal making the surprising timing decision to fire Troy Taylor. We'll break that down in depth and some Stanford head coach candidates here in just a second. But I am a big fan of college football. And I get, even for draft stuff, I get a little it's not that I don't trust them. It's that I think it is concerning when people don't have the context of college football as part of stuff here. I think when you're evaluating players, you should probably know how good they were in college, just in general, what their college path was. And I think it adds more context. I always get concerned when it's doesn't like college football guy comes screaming in and goes, this guy's good, this guy's bad. But you didn't watch any college football. So I think those guys have a higher hit and miss rate. Background's all set for the college football side? Sweet. All right, we will break down some Stanford head coach candidates here next on the show. Stanford has made the decision to fire head coach Troy Taylor, making that move today. This all comes on the heels of the ESPN report into bullying and belittling of Stanford staff members, most of whom were female, and the accusation that Taylor tried to remove an NCAA compliance officer, which you can't do, even with the NCAA not having nearly the same level of talent. The timing was really interesting, by the way, because the report came out a week ago. The investigation was a while ago. ESPN reported that Taylor had lost the locker room. I don't know if it's because Stanford didn't want to drastically upheave things right now, or they got additional information, or what. But of note, Andrew Luck has a tremendous amount of influence into this team now, this program. He is Stanford football's GM. He's going to run this search. AD Bernard Muir, who has been really bad, has already stepped down. He's announced he's going to resign. Andrew Luck made the decision to part ways with Troy Taylor. And that is significant because it's change. In the past, athletic directors made the head coaching search hires. Now, this is the first example of the football GM in the new NIL era kind of making the decisions when it comes to a football team and being above the head coach in the pecking order. Now, unfortunately, the timing sucks for Stanford. There's no way around it. It's not good timing. Spring practices are underway. I don't know if the Cardinal are going to be able to get a head coach to take over full time. This might be a situation where there's an interim coach for the rest of the season to get through the year, and then they hire somebody else to take on full-time next kind of regular off season. So keep that in mind as we go through this list. There'll kind of be some cheating involving both, frankly. So predictions. Will Stanford just hire the interim for the 2025 season? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. First up is Andy Thompson. That is the Stanford defensive coordinator. I will make note, he is actually a co-DC as well. Bobby April has the DC. Typically, they call it the Willie Shaw DC, which is also funny that it's the Andrew Luck director of offense when he's the football GM. It's just kind of funny timing. So I think either of those guys make a ton of sense as the interim candidate. Thompson was the head coach at Sac State. It was bad, so it wouldn't be a really great long-term hire, but just to survive the season, promoting somebody, I think, makes plenty of sense. Number 9, Jason Garrett, the former head coach of the Cowboys. He was a contender for the Duke head coaching job. And I think this type of program actually does fit for him. He's a Princeton guy. He's had interest in the past. He also hasn't been a head coach since 2019 with the Dallas Cowboys, and it wasn't that great. I know he was the Giants OC last, but people know him as the Cowboys head coach. This actually might work, but I think there's also a lot of downside involved too. Like, he hasn't recruited. Would he be good at it? I think so, but it's different now. It's a dark horse fun idea. Who should Stanford football hire as their next head coach? It's the pinned comment on today's show, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Number 8, Troy Calhoun, the head coach over at Air Force. He has been linked to jobs in the past. He didn't make a bowl game this past year for Air Force. And we've seen in some recent years, some coaches kind of jump ship a year early of like, I might get fired next year. Bye. And takes even sometimes a lesser job. This would be an upgrade. But he's been pretty productive at Air Force. He's got some West Coast-ish ties. It's not quite the West Coast, but it's western half of the U.S., I guess. I think as a G5 coach, this does intrigue me a little bit. A lot of names on this list have ties to Stanford. Troy Walters is one of them. He has been the long-term Bengals wide receivers coach. He's held that role since 2021. He has collegiate coaching experience, was the Nebraska OC for a few years, UCF wide receivers coach, Colorado wide receivers coach, and was a Stanford wide receiver back in 2000. So if you want a longer-term option, you'd probably take the job right now. Walters could be a fit. Number 6 is Jeff Monken, the head coach over at Army. Again, some of these names are probably guys you could convince to come on over after this upcoming season. I don't know if you're going to have a massive trickle-down effect here. He was at Georgia Southern before they made the jump to the FBS, by the way. 4 years, did a great job, and has won an Army, which, make no mistake, is not an easy place to win. And for Stanford, with question marks, with the academic requirements you have, with some of, I think, the not great NIL and even facility supporting, and playing in the ACC as a West Coast team, I don't think it's an easy place to win at right now. Hiring someone who has won at a hard place to win, I think, makes a lot of sense. Now, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 10 or 100 or up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It's available in more than 30 states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. They've also got the Flex Play. So if you want to do some season-long baseball Prize Picks slates or college basketball with March now here, you can get in on the action with Prize Picks. Go download the app today over at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. Link again is in the comments section and the description of today's show. The top 5, I'm kind of super intrigued by. I think you could rank them in any order, frankly. How about Tavita Pritchard? That is the former Stanford quarterback who was replaced and surpassed by Andrew Luck, who had spent a decade plus coaching at Stanford, including being their offensive coordinator, and is now the Commanders' quarterbacks coach. This is a fun, not the most household name, but he'd take the job. I promise you that. Go back to his alma mater, be the head coach, save the team. It's a question of if he's ready for it or not. Number 4, there's a lot of Stanford ties here, guys, right? How about Greg Roman, the Chargers offensive coordinator? I think his overall coaching philosophy could still work in the collegiate ranks. He was the Stanford associate head coach from 2009 to 2010, and then was on the Harbaugh path, Jim and John, with the Niners as the OC, briefly the Bills OC. Ravens tight end coach before becoming the OC there, is now the Chargers offensive coordinator. The timing, again, would kind of put LA in a bad spot. I don't know if he'd do that to Jim. That's, I think, kind of the biggest issue with Roman. Plus, does Stanford want him back? I mentioned earlier, Stanford, it's not an easy job. It's a household name to an extent, but it's not an easy place to win. It's kind of, that was kind of the middle class getting squeezed more and more by NIL. How good of a job is the Stanford head coaching job? Scale it for me from 1 to 10 in the comments section of today's show. Number 3, and this might be the job that Gary Patterson kind of comes out of his semi-retirement for. Patterson was the longtime TCU head coach. Now, I get he's done stuff with Texas briefly and Baylor as a consultant, but he has spent some time coaching out in California way back when as a defensive coach. The end of his tenure in TCU wasn't that great. 3-5, 6-4, 5-7, 7-6, but this was one of the best coaches in college football for a very long time. You don't win 181 games in 22 years at TCU by being bad. You win it by being damn good. This might be the job to get him out of retirement. He's only 65 after all. Number 2, how about Pep Hamilton? This would be, look, I'm looking for Andrew Luck hires, right? You have a GM. Hamilton, of course, was at Stanford for many years as the OC, the receivers coach, was the Colts OC with Luck. Since then, it's kind of bounced around. Browns quarterback coach, Michigan passing game coordinator with Jim Harbaugh, UFL head coach, or USFL head coach, I guess. Chargers QB coach, Texans OC, took some time off. Now is the Maryland offensive coordinator. And again, trying to get someone to leave their job in, March for college is not the easiest thing, but I think he'd love the gig. I think he wants to be head coach. Now, we will have more college football news for you, not just NFL stuff, but college stuff too, when it's appropriate. Hit that sub button if you haven't already, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Let's get a little bit weird at number 1, though. What if you just brought back David Shaw, even just as a temporary option? Now, I think it's a little bit less likely since he is now installed as the Lions passing game coordinator, but Shaw keeps interviewing for head coaching gigs. Like, all of it tells me he still wants to coach. The problem is the fall of Stanford began under Shaw's watch. 3-9, the 4-2 COVID year, 4-8. At his best, David Shaw won 10 games every year at Stanford. He was a consistent 10-game winner. He and Jim Harbaugh helped make Stanford actually good at football. But it all fell apart kind of under him. But he knows Andrew Luck very well. Maybe with where both the coach and the program are at, as is with other teams, Bill Snyder, for example, at Kansas State, maybe a reunion starts to make a little bit more sense. But it is a unorthodox solution in the end. From CJ to Young III, I don't follow college football. That's why I watch your draft show, so I know who's good or not. Also, I never comment on the college players. That's fair. I don't mind that at all. I love college football. I even like in season, like I just want to enjoy it. Like I don't want to make everything about the draft because then like I can't enjoy the great college players, Like all those a lot of times like the old school QBs, like the Timmy Changs, the Colt Brennans, like you can't enjoy them if you're like only focused on the draft side. Like Colt Brennan was awesome. It was so much fun. All those, Mike Leach offense where they're throwing for crazy yards and Graham Hare, like that stuff was awesome. Tim Tebow, great college player, bad NFL guy. Just enjoy him as a college guy. Jason White won the Heisman, was not an NFL draft pick. Like go even further back. Eric Crouch, awesome college player, not an NFL guy. I just want to enjoy it sometimes. I appreciate that. CJ. Who will sign Russell Wilson? The pinned comment from today's show. S for the Steelers, B for the Browns, G for the Giants, O for other. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Who do you think ends up signing Russell Wilson? Kali Lama's shouting out Timmy Chang. He's the Hawaii head coach now, if you didn't know, by the way. The Hawaii cycle has been a disaster class. The things that have gone on just with everything in Hawaii has been really unfortunate. But Timmy Chang is the current head coach over at Hawaii. He went from Nevada wide receivers coach to Hawaii head coach, which is kind of crazy. And they won 5 games last year. They're heading upwards after being really, really bad, which I think is kind of super, super fun. So get your votes in S, G, B, or O. Steelers 22%, Giants 29%, Browns 39%, 9% say O or for other. We will have more NFL videos for you guys all week and off season long. We'll have live draft coverage, of course, as well. Don't miss out. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv.